warm welcome to the lesson series on the Constitution of India. In today's lesson, we will be having a brief look at the preamble to the Constitution. At this point, I'd recommend that you pause the video and had a look at the preamble of the Constitution. So what you see on your screen is the entire text of the preamble to the Constitution of India. You can pause the video and have a good look at it. Now, before getting into the preamble of the Constitution, I need to ask you a more fundamental question. What is a preamble? Okay, so a preamble does not necessarily mean it is the preamble of the Constitution of India. In fact, you'd notice that many statutes have a preamble. So a preamble is basically an introductory statement to any document. So when you have a document, you start off with the preamble, and the preamble tells you as to what its philosophy and objectives are. Therefore, when we talk about the Constitution of India or any constitution of the world, the preamble reflects the intention of its framers. It talks about the history and some of the values that underlie that document. So a brief point on the history of the Indian Constitution. So as we're aware, and we learnt in our previous lesson, that the Indian Constitution was drafted by the Constituent Assembly, right? And they used to have meetings. So in one of the meetings, in one of the earlier meetings actually, the objective resolution was passed by Jawaharlal Nehru. So he delivered what is known as the objective resolution. And this objective resolution later became a part of the Indian Constitution. So this objective resolution was adopted on the 22nd of January 1947. Of course, do not get confused with the adoption of the Constitution. The Constitution was adopted on November 26th, 1949. This is just for the adoption of the objective resolution, which later became the preamble to the Indian Constitution. So as we just saw, the preamble contains several important points and words that signify the spirit of the Indian Constitution. In the few minutes that follow, I will take you through several of these words that are contained in the Act. If we are to look at some of the main points in the Constitution, they can be divided into four heads. The first would be that it tells you as to what the source of the Constitution and what the source of authority and power is. Next, it tells you some of the ideals regarding the nature of the Indian state. It also tells you as to what its objectives are. And then finally, in the last line, you can see the date of adoption. So let us talk about the date of adoption right away. So as you can see, if you look at the end of the preamble, you can see that it is adopted and enacted and given to ourselves on the 26th of November 1949. So this is something that you get from the preamble itself. Let us look at some of the other points in detail. In the very first words of the preamble, we can know as to who the source of the Constitution and the authority is. The preamble starts with the words, "We, the people of India." Right? So we can see that the source of the Constitution is the people of India themselves. In the same context, it's important for us to discuss this word sovereign. The meaning of sovereign is that this country is independent and it is its own master. So India until 1947 had been under the British regime, under the British colonial rule. So once it gained independence, it was now sovereign, and the sovereignty lies with the people of India. What that also means is that if the people of India are sovereign, it means that they decide as to who governs them. Therefore, we are a democracy, which means that we decide through elections as to who would be our government. And elections in India happen through the process of universal adult franchise, which means any person who is an adult, which means more than the age of 18, can vote in India. And that's why it is democratic. also, there is one more word that we can learn in the same spirit, which is republic. Now, the meaning of republic is that the head of state is elected. The head of state is an elected person. So in India, the head of state is the president, and as we know, the president of India is elected. Therefore, you can see that the source of the constitution and the authority of the constitution lies with the people of India. Let us have a look at the preamble again. There's one very interesting point that you perhaps may not have noticed, that the entire preamble from the start to the finish is basically one long sentence, right? If you have a close look at it, you can see that this is basically one long sentence, and therefore let's try to make a little sense of it. Okay, I'll break it down for you so that you can see some of the points that I wish you to see. Okay, it starts off with we, and then it tells you as to who we are. So we basically refers to the people of India. And now I will ignore some of the things in between and take you to the end so that you know as to what we want to do. So it says we, the people of India, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this constitution, which means that the people of India, the people in whom the authority lies and sovereignty lies, adopt, enact, and give to our own selves this constitution. So we give this constitution to ourselves, right? And then you can also see that you can find some more important words, that the people of India have resolved. Now, what is the meaning of resolved? You perhaps know that when you say, I've taken a New Year resolution, what does that mean? That you have promised to yourself that you will do something. So the people of India have resolved that we will make India sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. And you will give to all of your citizens justice, liberty, equality, and you would like to promote amongst them all fraternity. And lastly, but not the least, you would want to assure the dignity of the individual as well as the unity and integrity of our nation. So this, you can see, is what you find in the Preamble of India. Let us go further and look at some other words that require to be discussed. So the objective of the Constitution, of course, is justice, right? And you can see that it talks of three kinds of justice: social, economic, as well as political. So when you talk of social justice, it means that we want that there should be justice across all fragments of the society, regardless of religion or caste, and all of these things that socially divide a community, right? And therefore, you can see in that regard, the word secular plays a very important role. Now, what is the meaning of the word secular? It means that the state, the Indian state, does not have a religion of its own, and it supports and promotes all religions alike. So there is no religion of the Indian state because it is secular. Likewise, when we talk of economic justice, then you can find the word socialist. Now, as a philosophy, as a political philosophy, socialism means that there would be an equitable distribution of resources. That means all of the resources of India would be distributed equitably, right? The economic resources would be equitably distributed, which means that there will be less economic disparity. So when you talk of economic justice and when you talk of socialism, you're basically trying to talk about less economic disparity, so that the difference between the rich and the poor is not so much. And then we just already spoke about some of the things that secure political justice. For example, the right to vote. We have a universal adult franchise, so people can have political rights, they can contest the elections, and several other rights. So there are three important words that the Indian preamble uses, which you can find sourced from the French Constitution, because these were the words that were very important in the French Revolution. So we've seen that there has to be liberty, equality, and fraternity together. That's when they all make sense. If one of these is not there, then the other two cease to exist. Let me discuss a few points with you now. So when you talk of fraternity, Fraternity basically means brotherhood. And when there is brotherhood, then there is unity and integrity in the nation. So you find even these words used in the preamble. So you can see that these are all very closely related words. Likewise, we talk about equality. Okay, equality of status and opportunity. This is something that you find within the Constitution as well in Article 14, which we have spoken of even in the previous video. And this also helps building equality and liberty along with fraternity. So whenever we have to make a reference to the Constitution, we generally ask as to which article it lies in. So what is the article number? So now I ask you with regard to the preamble, in which article is the preamble? Is it Article 1? The answer is no. The preamble does not have an article number, it's just the preamble to the Constitution. So is it a part of the Constitution? Earlier, it was answered no by the Supreme Court in the case of Inri Birubari, a case of 1960. So in here, the Supreme Court said that although it is a very important tool to understand the Constitution, it held that the preamble is not a part of the Constitution. However, later on, the Supreme Court said that yes, it is a part of the Constitution, and this was held in the very leading case of Keshwananda Bharati versus the state of Kerala. It's a very important case, perhaps the most important case in constitutional law, a case of 1973, which held that the Constitution of India is very much a part of the Constitution itself. So I hope that this introductory lesson to the preamble to the Constitution of India was of use to you. Thank you so much for your patience. Good day.